Alright, Shalom, Brother Kashkwala coming back at you with another lesson. This will be another installment of my series that I've been doing for some years now called Let's Look Into It. So before we get into it, I want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Chakwadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Peace, love, salutation to the elect 144 first fruit. So what we're going to take a look into today is pretty much the currents of South Africa. All right, so the currents of South Africa. I think this is going to be Let's Look Into It installment number 26. So I know I have on my, front page, you could go to my playlist and look into, no, this is going to be number 27. You can go into my playlist and look at all the videos I've done in my Let's Look Into It series. So we're going to be looking into the currents of South Africa to really understand what Psalm 107 starting at like 23 is talking about. We really have to understand those currents that are happening underneath the South Africa to understand how Israel got over to the other side of the world to, pretty much inhabit those lands. All right. And then also how those Hamites came over by the order of King Solomon, which we'll get later in we're probably going to get First Kings, and then we're probably going to get Second Ezra 13 as well, because it does talk about us coming over to the other side of the world. So first, let's just go ahead and get into these ocean currents off the South Africa. And I'll put these links in the description box below if y'all want to read through them. So it says the main near surface ocean circulations near South Africa are shown in Figure 1. So these current, I don't know how to pronounce that, but the Agulhas current, which I have in Wikipedia here, is relatively warm. It says, whereas the Benguela current is cooled by coastal upwelling along the west coast of South Africa. So when you're looking at these currents, because like right down here, I'm going to zoom in real quick. Looking at this chart, if you have a simple map or a globe in your house, which I do recommend you buy a map of the world, or if you have a globe, buy a globe. I got both. Or just look it up online. You have like Antarctica around down that area. And as you can see how the currents move, right? This one's moving down. And then you have the Benguela current moving upwards and the Angola current moving down. So there's a lot of direction going here. So you have a circulation region right here. And then the Agulhas retroflexion region here. As you can see, the subtropical convergent current, or the west wind draft, is going this way, making like a turbulent current right underneath South Africa. So you have two different currents coming two different ways, plus a wind draft going this way, creating a current that's awkward, a circular current. So back then, during that time, and even now, that's why there's different routes to take to get to the other side of the earth, because these currents will fuck up your way and it'll be hard to get around this area, okay, to get to the other side of the earth. And plus now, more than likely, they just go through off the west coast, or they just go through the Mediterranean to get to the other side, and they just bypass going underneath the southern border of Africa, because of all of this that's going on right here. So we ask ourselves, well, then how did the Israelites get to the other side of the world? Well, that's when you read Psalm 107. It happened by way of miracle by Yahweh. All right. So Psalm 107 and 23 says, they that go down to the sea in ships that do business in great waters, These see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. Right. Because let's go ahead and just get First Kings, I think it's like the 10th chapter, where it talks about how King Solomon got most of his riches. Let's just start right here. First Kings 10:1. It says, and when the queen of Sheba heard the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, I'm gonna read this quick so I can get to the point. She came to prove him with hard questions. Like, no, bitch. Like, he can answer anything because he has the wisdom of the Lord. Like, stop. So it says, verse 2, it says, and she came to Jerusalem with a very great train, with camels that bear spices and very much gold and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she communed with him of all that was in his heart. And Solomon told her all questions. There was not anything hid from the king, which he told her not. And when the queen Sheba had seen Solomon's wisdom in the house that he had built, in the meat of his table, in the sitting of his servants, in the attendance of his ministers, in the apparel, and his cupbearers, in his accent by which he went up unto the Lord, unto the house of the Lord, assent. So like there was no more spirit in her. She was like astonished. It says, and she said to the king, it was a true report that I heard in my own land of thy acts and of thy wisdom. Howbeit I believed not the words until I came and my eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not told me. Right. She was like only told half of the stuff that she saw. And of course her eyes didn't believe it because no woman has any type of faith or any type of, foundation of belief structure or anything. So of course every woman has to believe it before they see it. It says, see it before they believe it. So it says, thy wisdom and prosperity exceeded the fame which I heard. Verse 8, it says, happy are thy men, happy are thy servants, which stand continually before thee, and that hear thy wisdom. Verse 9, blessed be the Lord power, which delighteth in thee, to set thee on the throne of Israel, because the Lord loved Israel forever. Therefore made he thee king to do judgment and justice. All right. So now verse 10, let's getting into this point. And she gave the king 120 talents of gold, and of spices very great store, and precious stones. And there came no more such abundance of spices as these which the queen Sheba gave to King Solomon. Verse 11, it says, and the navy also of Hiram. So Hiram are them Hamites. All right, that brought forth Ophir, brought in Ophir great plenty of almug trees and precious stones. And the king made the almug trees pillars of the house of the Lord. And the king's house harps also and psalteries and singers. There came so much almond trees, nor were seen in this day. King Solomon gave the queen Sheba all her desire, whatsoever she asked, besides that which the Solomon gave her royalty. She turned and went to her own country. So pretty much this is showing, okay, that, so like here, 1 second, let me just skip down real quick. Yeah, there we go. So pretty much it's showing the abundance that King Solomon had and things of that nature. Reason I'm bringing this out, because he acquired it in some type of manner. All right. He acquired that in some type of manner. Now, what did we just read? It says she also gave him the navy of Hiram. You know, the navy is the sea. Like when it comes to military, they deal with the sea, ships, warships, and things of that nature. Okay. And things of that nature. Okay. So going down, let's keep going down here. One moment. There we go. Verse 21, it says, and all the King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. None were of silver. It was nothing accounted to of in the days of Solomon. So everything was gold. All right. So the reason why I'm bringing this out, it goes along with what we're talking about, and also goes along here with Psalm 107, which we're going to get back into, because we read these see, it says, they that go down to the sea in ships that do business in great waters. Now, the business in great waters that were to do when King Solomon already had the wisdom and knowledge that there was other land over on the other side of the earth. So he had business over there, all right, that he wanted to attend to. So it says, these see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep, all right? And his wonders in the deep are these wondrous works that these currents are doing right here. But what's even more wondrous, let's go ahead and get into what's even more wondrous and amazing than the currents that happen. Because all of this, the currents and everything and the wind drift and everything is the works of the Lord's as well, which is a wondrous thing. But we're going to get into something that's more wonderful that even than this. So 1 Kings 10 and 22 says, for the king had a navy of Tarshish with the navy of Hiram, because he acquired the navy of Hiram. All right. And when you read up about Sheba, it says, once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish, bringing gold, silver, ivory, and apes and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth for riches and for wisdom, because he had the understanding that there was something else on the other side of the world. All right. And then what gives that away is once in 3 years came the navy of Tarshish. Now, when you go into Tarshish is on the same side of the world as Israel. So what is it talking about once in every 3 years? It took 1.5 or 1 year and a half to make it to the other side of the world and to make it back. So one time every 3 years, the ships of Hiram will go over to the other side of the world, South Africa, wherever. Bring those peacocks weren't known in the Middle East during that time, but they're damn sure known over in that other land. You know, you go into, Brazil, aka Brazil today, the Amazon, Argentina, Chile on the other side of the, of South America and things of that nature. You have Panama, of course they probably hit Mexico, and all of that was untouched. So the vegetation and the air quality and the water and the gold and the animals, exotic animals, were all abundant over there. So they'll bring them back once every 3 years in abundance, bringing it straight back to King Solomon. But that was by his demand. Because to keep it a buck, it was an unknown territory. And that's why we see them Olmec statues. If I'm saying that. Olmec statues over there in like South America, okay? These are them Hamites that came over there. It looked like a Hamite. These are them Hamites who kind of try to went over there and set their stamp like, oh, we found this place. There's some dumbass statue of a head, like fucking idiots. Where's the rest of the body? I can't stand Hamites. You're stupid. But that's what they kind of in sense of what they look like when they came over, okay? And they set their stamp, you could say, or their mark saying, oh, we were here. And then they would come back. Ultimately, they had to come back because what? They were ordered to come back by King Solomon. And of course, every nation was in obedience to Israel because of what King David put their ass in subjection. So therefore, they had a fear of Israel and a fear of the Lord, of what the Lord would do to them if they didn't obey the orders of Solomon. So they came back with all this abundance, once every 3 years, because it took. All right, let me just get this world map. All right. Let's get a world map here. Man, come on, man. I'm just trying to see this shit. All right. All right, so let's zoom in here. So they'll come down, probably going through the Red Sea, right in between Madagascar and coming over, and then probably hit Brazil, Uruguay, Argentina areas because they could just go straight shot right there or kind of diagonal and hit all this area. Okay? And then they'll come back right around, right back to, Israel area. And it'll take them 3 years for that whole trip. 1.5 years to get there and another 1.5 years to get back. All right? But they had to go through that bottom part of South Africa through these currents. And the only way that they can get there is if the Lord did what? So Psalm 107:24 again, it says, "These see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. For he commanded and raiseth the stormy wind," which is that west wind drift or the tropical convergence. All right. So he commanded the tropical convergence in the west wind drift. All right. He says he commanded and raised the stormy wind, which lifted up the waves thereof. Right. Which lifted up the waves thereof. All right. They mount up to the heaven. They go down again to the depths. Their souls is melted because of the trouble. They reel to and fro and stagger like a drunken man and are in the wit's end. Then they cry unto the Lord in their trouble, and he bringeth them out of the distress, and he maketh the storm calm, so that the waves thereof are still. Then are they glad because they be quiet, so he bringeth them unto their desired haven. See that? So what was the desired haven? To bring themselves over to this side of the earth. Okay, that was the desired haven, but they couldn't get there because of the Agulhas current. All right, which I'm not going to read all this. I just have it up for the sake of the lesson, which is the Agulhas current. So you see that current and how it moves, and it mixes in with the Benguela current, which makes it reroute. So even if they came down here, the wind in the west wind draft will make their ass go right back over there. They needed that current in that wind to stop to get around the south end or the south bend of Africa to make it over here. All right? They had to do that. But the only way they could do that is if the Lord stopped it. So that is what I'm saying when we read verse 24. These see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep. It's a wondrous thing to see these winds and these currents and how they combine themselves to make like a circular motion. So even if you are coming down this way, it will push you back that way. There's no way. And especially using the sailboats that they were using back then, there's no fucking way they could get around that. They would just be pushed right back a little further south and right back around to where they were coming from. And next thing you know, they're hitting Madagascar and they're, hold on, we just made a full circle. It's the current and the winds and how the west wind draft is pushing them along that they couldn't get by. So the Lord stopped that. He stopped the tropical convergence, and he stopped the Agulha and the Benguela and the Angola currents in this area, making this U-turn effect right here, and he made it calm so they can just go on by. More than likely, he just made that tropical convergence in the west wind and that Angola current stop so the current of the Agulhas current can just carry him through. And then the Benguela current will just carry him through. Because those are going the same direction. You see that? They're going the same direction right underneath. And that's the direction they needed to go. Instead of hitting this Agulhas retroflexion region where they will be circulated to making a what? A recirculation back up towards Madagascar, back up towards Israel. So the Lord stopped that, okay? And then also you can apply this also as a prophecy to when Yahushua was on the boat, okay? When he was on the boat and he told the storm to stay still. This is a prophecy to that, okay? And also this is showing how the Lord stopped these currents right underneath South Africa. It's pretty interesting and is very, very pleasing to look at too, or study about. See how the Lord did things for us. But here's another main thing, the reason the Lord did it. So let's go ahead and go to the 1611 edition Bible where it holds the Apocrypha. And then let's go ahead and go to 2nd Ezra 13th chapter. Okay? So let's go in 2nd Ezra 13. We're going to go jump down to where it talks about King Hoshea. So we'll start at verse 40. It says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hoshea the king. You go read, I want to say 1st or 2nd King. I think it's 2nd Kings. Let me see here. When it's talking about that, you're going to want to read, let me see. I want to say it's 2nd Kings 17. Let me see something here. Because Hoshea was before, 2nd Kings 17, because King Hoshea was before King Hezekiah, which King Hezekiah kind of brought things back into its perspective, order, because he was a man after the Lord's heart as well. You know what I'm saying? So, in the time of King Hoshea, it says, whom Salmanasar, which were the Assyrians, the king of Assyria, led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. It says, but they took this counsel amongst themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country. So pretty much what it's saying here is Salmanasar took them captive and took them to another land, but it was still over, that other land was still over in the Middle East. But the Israelites were saying they took this counsel amongst themselves, so they deliberated with each other. But who? The northern tribe deliberated with one another, and it's like, man, we got to find a way to do our own fucking thing. So it says they that would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country, which the further country was the Americas. So they deliberated over here during that time of slavery against the Assyrians, and made that same route, and the Lord stopped those currents down there so they can get over here to inhabit this area. Okay? So it says, go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt. All right? So mankind never dwelt here. Even though the Olmec statues were already there from the Hamites, doesn't mean someone was dwelling there. The Hamites had to come back from the order of King Solomon during that time. And King Solomon he was the first to find out about the place back then. And King Solomon, he got into rulership in 971 BC. You see that? So King Solomon been knowing about this place where we live today since 971 BC. He was already privy to it. The Israelites are already privy to this land. So the first ones over to inhabit this land were the Israelites. All right? That's just simple knowledge right there. But, going into the history on how we acquired this place, you got to get a little bit deeper into. And I'm still scratching the surface of history on this. I'm just telling you how the Lord stopped the currents so we could get over there. All right? It says that they might dare keep their statues, which they never kept in their own land. You see? Really, the scriptures are shooting a shot at the northern kingdom, because it's like, yeah, they said they wanted to go keep the statues over in the other land, but they barely kept it when they were in Israel. They were going off. You see? So that's how we got over to the other place. And that's what the Psalm 107 is speaking about, how the Lord stopped those currents, the Agulhas current, the Benguela current, the west wind draft, and that subtropical convergence. So y'all can do more studying on this. Lord willing, I'll drop this link in the description box below. And y'all can do more studies and maybe find out a little bit more than what I told you today. But of course, all my Let's Look Into It's are just a starting point to where you can start studying on the matter. So Lord willing, this was edifying. I want to give all glory, honor, and praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai Ba'Shem Chakodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Peace, love, salutation to the elect 144 first fruit. Until the next time, we'll say shalom, and like always, repent, for Yahweh Shai is coming back sooner than what me and you believed. Shalom.